So in the second video for our week one class session, I'm going to talk about inspectional reading. So inspectional reading is where you inspect your source. So there's two reasons why you want to inspect your source. One is you want to determine if the source is worth your time in reading. So think about when you have to do a large research project and you need to read lots of information to get what you need, but you probably discovered that there are far more sources out there on your topic than you would ever have the time to read or go through. So you need to skim through the sources and determine which one is worth reading more in depth, which one's going to help you with your project, and which one isn't. So inspectional reading is a way of kind of narrowing down what you need to read so that you only spend your time reading the most important or informative information. The second purpose for inspectional reading is to help you comprehend what you're reading in more detail. All right, so think of inspectional reading as looking up the directions on Google Maps, right? So if I've never been to a place before, I usually type into Google, and maybe some of you just go ahead and hit start and let it, start talking to you as you're driving. But if you're like me, I don't like that. I like to look at the map ahead of time so I have a general sense of where I'm going, how long is this going to take, what general direction am I going on, maybe what freeway am I going to get on, and what exit do I have to get it off of. So I at least know that. And maybe the little details of what streets I'm going to be turning on once I get off the freeway, I'll let Google tell me that ahead of time. But when we're going to a new destination, we often get a bit of comfort from at least having a bit of an overview of where we're heading. So think of inspectional reading in that way. You're getting an overview of where this author is going to take you and on what journey. And when you have this overview, it can help with your comprehension of the text. You're not going to struggle as much to read and understand what they're saying when you know what the end destination looks like. So inspectional reading is about getting kind of that end destination view in mind. You may not understand how they got there yet with the author and their ideas, but you know where you're heading. So here are some steps to help you with inspectional reading. And we call this step the pre-reading stage. So there's 4 strategies, and I'm numbering them for you. And this first strategy of inspectional reading just basically involves looking at the surface of the book. You're going to look at things like the title, maybe the table of contents, read some blurbs about it, or if it's a academic journal article, maybe an abstract. Maybe you read a teeny little bit, maybe the introduction paragraph to the article. Maybe you skim, the first page in the first chapter of the book. You might look through headings or chapters in the book or article to see if any interest you or stick out as being relevant or necessary. Okay, but you're not actually diving into the book and reading at this stage. You're just looking superficially at how is the book organized. So what I'd like you to do is practice this on our Adler and Van Doren book, How to Read a Book. You are assigned homework in the book to read chapters 1, 2, 4, and 5 this week. But before you read those chapters, I just want you to inspect this book. Okay, so looking for some of the things that I just covered, like the headings, table of contents, maybe skim a paragraph or two. I want you to see what can you learn from the book by just doing this inspection of it. And then the results of that inspection, I would like you to enter right here in the worksheet where right under activity where it says strategy 1 inspectional reading. So go ahead and pause this video, and once you've completed this activity, come back. All right, so you just completed your previewing on an inspectional reading of Adler and Van Doren. Now I'm going to go on to the second step of inspectional reading, and that's where you actually do read the assigned portions of the text, okay? Now you're reading it maybe with the intention that this is a first light reading of the text and you'll come back to it, or with the intention of I just need to get the big picture. I don't maybe need to understand the nitty-gritty details, okay? So this is not necessarily about speed reading. You should be able to comprehend a bit of what's being said, but you're not reading with the idea that you're going to go in depth. Okay, so this is reading for the big picture. Okay, it's not analytical reading, which is where we go into details, and that's what we'll cover next week. If you need to stop and look up words when you're doing inspectional reading, that's okay, but it would be better to do it after you're reading if at all possible. All right, and with inspectional reading, you do not want to be rereading sections. If you get stuck on something and it doesn't make sense, move on. It's most likely that it's not the words on the page that are causing you to feel like you don't get it. It's more likely that it's the idea that you're struggling with, and you'll get more context for the idea by reading on or just reading on in the book where the author will start to give you more context. So that's just a general good rule. For any type of reading is if you have to read something more than twice, just go ahead and move on and you'll likely pick up the idea later on. All right, third for inspectional reading, our third strategy, understanding what you are reading. So what is it exactly? So there's a lot of different types of books and types of articles out there, and what's maybe the intent of the author. So Adler and Van Doren give us at least 3 questions to ask of anything that you read, and they're located on page 46 and 47. The first is, what kind of book or article is this? So what's the purpose of it? Okay, obviously reading the Bible is a lot different from reading your textbook. So understand, what is the purpose of what you're reading? What is it about as a whole? So by now you should be able to kind of answer this about our how to read a book. This book is about how to read. Okay. What is the structural order of the book or article? So hopefully you discovered that when you did your inspectional reading. How is this book organized? That should have been clear to you. What are some of the ideas within each of the levels of reading that Adler and Van Doren cover? So I want you to go ahead and pause this video and answer these questions in your worksheet, and then come back. All right, so moving on to the last strategy of inspectional reading, which is understanding what you read. So like I said, in these steps, you are reading, in this case, the book or the article or whatever it is you've selected. Adler and Van Doren strongly recommend that you mark up your books, or how we phrase this in English writing classes is annotating. So annotating just means to make a mark on a book. And I recommend that you do this on your physical hard copy books if you can. If you have an ebook, then a lot of ebook readers do allow you to highlight or take notes on that. But there's 2 reasons why I want to emphasize annotating what you read. One is basically it allows you to keep track of the author's argument, okay, and what is being said. This is very useful for going back later when you have to write papers and look for a quote or find a passage that you want to refer to, okay. The second is that annotating will help you remember what you write. And I've had a lot of students over the years say, but writing takes me so much longer. It slows me down. I can't get through it as quickly, which is true. It will slow you down. But the improvement you'll get in your grades and in your retention of the information will outweigh those little bit of time that you will lose. So kind of the question I have to that is, the trade-off is worth it. And why bother reading it if you're not going to remember it? There's really no purpose to reading it. You don't read something to just have it be marked off your to-do list. That won't get you very far with your reading in college. So here's an example of one page from How to Read a Book that I annotated. So you can see I've marked specific terms like inspectional reading, skimming or pre-reading, and I've numbered some ideas. You can see the 2 and 3. I sometimes mark little quotes. I underline things. So this gives you an example of what I would be looking for you guys when you do your annotation. So what I want you to do is go ahead and pause this video, read chapter 1 in Adler and Van Doren. It's about 15 pages, and practice annotating. And I'd like you to aim for making at least 1 annotation per page. I didn't quite average out that many. Some pages have a lot of annotations, some don't have any, but kind of aim for that average in the course. So go ahead and complete this activity on the worksheet, which is the third activity. And then when you're done with it, go ahead and move on to the third video.